source of life except the Torah. The Torah is what keeps us here on this world. Otherwise, we'd have disappeared. And by the way, any Jew who completely disconnects himself from Torah mitzvos within a short period of time disappears. We know that. Completely disappears. The only communities that continue their existence is ones who hold dearly on to Torah mitzvos. They survive, despite all odds. Okay, so Yud Kei Vav Kei is revealed. This is the energy. This is the energy that animates the Torah. And of course, Torah bows towards, so to speak, is focused towards the center candle. And then the same thing happens in Vayikra, Bamidbar and Dvarim, except notice it's backwards. Why backwards? Why backwards? Because it has to face towards the center. So there is, again, you take the first hay, Vayidaber, the hay of Moshe, Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe. From that hay, 49 letters, Vav, 49 letters, 49 letters Resh, 49 letters Vav, 49 letters Taf, and it spells Torah going backwards towards the center. And in Dvarim, the same thing, except this is what I told you last time. It's not 49 letters, it's the 49th letter. So the space between the word Torah is only how much? 48 letters. Because I've explained last time that this represents the step down between Torah Shebachsav and the beginnings of Torah Sheba'al Peh, the level of Moshe being 49, and the level of Aaron being only 48. Okay? Now this was revealed by Michael Ber Weissmandel, but it should reinforce what we're studying. Torah, by studying, what is it saying? By studying Torah, Hashem communicated with us, you will connect with me, Yud Kei Vav Kei, in the cycle of 7 by following the pattern of all the mitzvos, which teach us the Borei Olam in 7 days. The world itself has a pattern. I give you what to do. I put out a pattern of mitzvos. Follow them, and you'll be able to connect to me, and you'll therefore be part of eternity. And this is your eternity, is Torah. That's the message to Klal Yisrael. It's incredible code, but it has, if you analyze it, it has implications to it. It has real implications. Especially, I love the 48, the step down to 48. Because what he's saying to us, Torah is moving out into the next phase of Torah, which is Torah Sheba'al Peh, and even though Niskatnu Hadoros, the Torah is, we are not on the level of previous generations. We're not even on the level of the last generation. I mean, come on, Rav Moshe Feinstein was alive until the 80s. Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky. I mean, you can't even talk. Even my Rebbe, Rav Pam, he passed away right before 9/11. I always said that the first thing I did after 9/11 was go to my Rebbe's Shloshim in Yeshiva Torah V'das. And I said, you know what, he'd been around. Hashem took him off the planet before 9/11. If he would have been here and living in New York, I don't think there could have been a 9/11. In his honor. In his honor, Hashem wasn't gonna aggravate him like that. And that's true. And we know before World War II how many great Gedolim died. Right before. Who was the biggest one of all? Chafetz Chaim. Chafetz Chaim died simultaneous with Hitler's rise to power. Simultaneous. As Hashem spared him. He knew everything. Rav Chaim Oizer died in 1939, right before the actual implementation of the Holocaust. So many great Gedolim died. Of course, so many died in the Holocaust itself. But, that decade of the 30s, the giants, Chafetz Chaim was alive in 1930. Think about that. The Chafetz Chaim. And that wasn't that long ago. I mean, that's less than 100 years ago, if you want to think about it. So, yes, but here's the good news. The good news is, and this I heard from Rafaim Koenig, and I'm going to tell you the story of, I told you the story of my Lag BaOmer, right? Exploits. Did I tell you the story of my Lag BaOmer exploits? Okay, I have to tell you. Going to Meron. I told you a little bit about going to Meron. Yes, so the Rav Ephraim said to me, from Koenig from Tzfat, said to me that although that Rabbi Nachman taught, that although the generations are in a nosedive, the tzaddikim who have already passed are getting stronger and stronger. Now this comes from the Tanya as well. The Tanya says, in writing a letter about Menachem Mendel of Vitebsk, Menachem Mendel of Vitebsk was one of the early Hasidic masters that made it to Eretz Yisrael. Again, because the Baal Shem Tov said, we've crossed the Rubicon of 1740, which is now the dawn of the day of the 6th millennium. It's Shabbos, Erev Shabbos, time to go to Eretz Yisrael. And his Talmidim went, and the Vilna Gaon'S Talmidim went. He was one of the great leaders, and they wrote about him. He was such a great Rebbe. When he passed away, people were very broken, because he was like, after the Baal Shem Tov, he was their leader, and he wrote an exposition about that in the Tanya. And it's just the neshama. The neshama then has power and influence. And we know that it could not have influence. So that's why we go to Kivei Tzadikim, go to Kivei Avos, go to Kever Avos. You know that? Feel that there's an influence, continuous influence. We say Zozayne gute Beta, be a pleader on our behalf. We believe that. That's part of our Masorah. And therefore, especially on days of Yortzites, the concept is this, that the neshama has 5 parts, right? The neshama has 5 parts to it. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama is the lower portion of a Neshama. And the higher one is called Chaya and Yechida. The concept is that our souls, Jewish souls, I'm Jewish, their soul has a direct connection to what? To Yud Kei Vav Kei, to the Kisei HaKavod. We have a direct line. In other words, so what happens? You plug in the electricity and you got a bulb over here and it's lit up. What happens when you cut the cord? That's it. So neshamos have a direct cable. They're plugged in to the Kisei HaKavod. We have the ability to grow and shine and be, as close as we can to emulating Hashem. And based on that, our ore shines, our neshama shines, literally. We can accomplish great things. But there's 2 parts of our neshama that don't even descend into this world. As we said, Spheros are not, the 7s are not the whole story. The real story is 10. There are really 10 Spheros. So in Spheros Omer, what happened to the last 3? We're not holding right there yet. That's going to be another stage. Just like, how many nations of Canaan did we actually conquer? 7. But how many are there? There are really 10. And there's extra lands that are associated with them that will eventually be ours, because they represent the tikkun of the head, the most important part of the body, so to speak. But the guf, where we actually perform things and do things, which is guided by the brain, that has to come first. If you don't have a body, what good is a head? A headless body doesn't accomplish very much. When you got a body that works and can put a head on it, then you got something. So we're in the stage of reconstructing the body of Am Yisrael, of the world, really, until the das can really be reattached. That's what happens in the Tkuf of Mashiach. We get the head fitted onto the guf. That's what goes on. Sounds a little like robots, but it's, what do you call it? What do they call it? Technology, where they're building cyborgs, right? The world doesn't have a head, but it's the greatest of the tzaddikim. Who they were the das. They had the das. They had that, because ultimately our neshama is. So now, our lower souls, Reish Nun Reish. Ruach, Nefesh, and Neshama, right? Naran, excuse me. Nefesh, Ruach, our lower thing is the Nefesh. On the Yort site, what we believe is that there's a re-energy into the bones, which is the remnants of the tzaddik. So there's like a flash of electricity going from the Kisei HaKavod all the way down, turns the light bulb on. The light bulb is on. And therefore, the presence of the tzaddik and the neshama is there. And you want to then access that as your melitz yosher. Not to daven chas v'shalom to the tzaddik, chas v'shalom. We're not davening to a tzaddik. We're saying, tzaddik, help me. You're the one whose will Hashem follows. That's really the concept of a tzaddik. Hashem does the will of a tzaddik. So I'm not going to tell you what to do. Okay. So, to that end, I'll just conclude with this point. So there's a beautiful pshat that I wanted to share with you. No, excuse me, from the Balaturim. From the Balaturim. The Balaturim said, also in the Parsha, Bahar B'Chukosai, it says that there were 6 Golios where the Jewish people suffered. It says in the Torah in the Parsha, V'avonam, with a vav. He says, quoting a medrash, that there were actually 6 exiles that the Jewish people went through. What were they? Well, the first was when Sancherev exiled the tribes on the other side of the Yarden, Reuven, Shimon, right? Excuse me, Reuven, Gad, and Chatzi Shevet Menashe. The second exile was when he came back and he took Zevulun and Naphtali, which were our greatest warriors. But also Zvulun, what was great about Zvulun? What did he do? He brought the money to support Torah. Once we lost Zvulun, then the rest of the 10 tribes were exiled subsequently. The 10 tribes were exiled in 3 stages. Okay? Eiveli Yarden, Zvulun and Naphtali, and then the rest of them. And then came Nebuchadnezzar, Melech Bavel, and he actually exiled the remaining, the Jews of Yehuda and Binyamin. And the Jews of Yehuda and Binyamin were exiled in stages of 3 successive kings, right? The 3 kings. What's that? Yehoiachin was... say it in his own words. Because again, in Parshas Behar, it says in Vayikra Perek Chof Vav, Psukim Lamed Daled through Lamed Tes, speaks as Tirtza Aris right? Again, like we said, recoup its Shabbosim that are owed to Hashem. So the fourth Golus was the Golus of Yehoiakim. Yehoiakim was the first king that was taken, and that with him, some of the stellar Jews were already taken to Bavel, as we know. Then you had Golus Yehoiachin, and then the final one, of course, was Golus of Tzidkiyahu. And that was it. And then there was, we went to Korban Bayis. So he says, Sheish Pamim Kosuv Avon Avonam Beparsha. Noted the Balaturim, the word Avon or Avonam occurs 6 times, corresponding to the 6th Golios Vav, Avon, that occurred. Now, if you look at the commentary to Bereshis Lamed Vav Hey, where it speaks about the children of Esav, he mentions a different medrash that's called Medrash Eser Golios. It says that there were 10 exiles. 10 exiles under the Bnei Esav. And that's from the word, one of the sons of Esav was called Ya'ush, Yud, Ayin, Vav, Shin. Sounds a lot like Yush, right? It's spelled without a Vav. It's spelled with a Yud. But it's read with a Vav. Interesting, Yud and Vav again. And he says, because the Fisha Kibel Yud Amamim Esav brought together 10 nations, Zavo al Yisrael b'churban bayis sheni, and they're called Ohale Edom. You ready? Now these are the nations. 1, Edom. By the way, the pasuk in Tillim, it says, Pei Gimel, Al Amcha Yarimu Sod, Amru Lechu v'nachnidei migoy. We're going to exterminate the Jewish people. V'lo yizocher Shem Yisrael Od. And it lists in that kapitel, Pei Gimel, right, the 10 nations. 10 nations. Here they are. Edom, Yishmael. That's always the partnership. You know, the Westerns, weapons, and the Arabs, oil. What happened yesterday? They just signed a deal for something like $250 billion. That's a nice chunk of change. What's the deal? Esav, Edom, the Christian companies, give weapons to the Arabs in exchange for oil. That's the deal. That's why it's Edom Yishmael. That's the danger, the real danger. Moab is on the other side of the Yarden. That's Jordan. Hagrim is all kinds of people in the Mitzrayim area, because Hagar was from Mitzrayim. Gaval, I don't know where Gaval is, but I'd like to know. It could be Iraq, Iran. Ammon, which we know is on the other side of the Yarden, right? Amalek. Peleshet, our good friends, the Palestinians. Yoshvei Tzur, that's the Lebanese, who I just heard are entering the peace process. God bless them. And Ashur, Syria. Hey, all the players that are in play today. Those are the people who want to come and say, Amru lechu v'nachidei migoy, v'lo yizocher Shem Yisroel od. It's a very dangerous time. But the question in the Art Scroll commentary, the Gam, it says, you're right, Gam Asher Nilvai Mahem. Gam Asher Nilvai Mahem. So that's kind of like a throw-in, right? Good question. But I'll tell you what the Art Scroll asks. Rabbi Art Scroll asks a very important question. He says the Baal Turim is contradicting himself. Here in Parshas Bahar, it says 6 times the word Avon or Avonam, in reference to the 6 Golios, and he told us the 6 Golios. But then in Bereshis he tells us about the 10. This is a very simple answer. 2 different Kufot. The Gullus that's mentioned relevant to Shemitah was the ones that took us out of Eretz Yisrael proper. And that was 2 nations, Ashur and Bavel. That was the beginning of the station. There were 6 stages of that. But Esav, Edom lasts forever until Mashiach. And that's why it's a 10. Why is it a 10? Because that's the final and complete stage. 6 is Erev 7, right? 6 is they were exiled because their 6th partnership with Hashem of the 7 wasn't being held up, or like we say, Hashem didn't have his control the way he wanted it, and we were sent out of Eretz Yisrael till Hashem could recoup his part of the land. But then Edom is a whole different story. He's going to take all these nations for all of the period of his exile and group them together as enemies of Am Yisrael. And at that point, that's a 10. Because that means that the real full Geula will come out, which includes all of the lands of those nations, by the way. All of it. Hold on. We need to daven the schus of the great tzaddikim, the schus of our learning, and the Baal Turim, and the whole. And the Baal Turim is teaching us to understand what's truly going on, and we mispalel that Hashem will protect us and guide us, and we should have an easy passage, an easy birth, like this Villa Rebbe's woman who said she doesn't need that. She can have an easy birth. Bezos Hashem. Amen.